Well, alright guys, what is going on? This is Luke back here with yet another album review. Sorry I took some time off. I've been busy with school and all that fucking bullshit, which I'm finally out for the holidays, so I guess that's cool. Anyways, without further ado, tonight we'll be reviewing my downright favorite black metal album of all time, Burzum's Filosofem, released on January 31st, 1996 on Misanthropy Records. Now, this album is very fucking atmospheric and has a lot of elements different from the other black metal projects and used a lot of experimentation from Burzum's previous stuff. And I gotta say, Varg did black metal like no other, in my opinion. The only black metal band that has come close to the atmosphere and experimentation of black metal is probably, honestly, Silencer or Xasthur. But then even those bands still don't quite have as much of a punch like Burzum did, in my opinion. Anyways, let me give a quick biography of this band on Varg and Burzum. Now, Burzum is a one-man Norwegian black metal / dark ambient project founded by none other than Varg Vikernes in 1991. Although Burzum has never played live performances, it became part of the early Norwegian black metal scene and is considered one of the most influential acts in black metal's history. He has only released 4 dark ambient and neo-folk albums. The word Burzum means darkness in the black speech, a fictional language crafted by Lord of the Rings writer J.R.R. Tolkien. Burzum's lyrics and imagery are often inspired by fantasy and Norse mythology and do not feature the political views Vikernes is actually known for a lot of the times, which I found quite interesting. He founded Burzum, like I said, in 1991, recorded the first 4 Burzum albums between January 1992 and March 1993. From 1994 to 2009's Varg was in prison for the murder of Mayhem's guitarist Euronymous and the burning of 3 churches. While imprisoned, he actually recorded 2 dark ambient albums using only synthesizers, as he had no access to drums, guitar, or bass at that time, since he was in prison. Since his release from prison in 2009, he has continued to record several more albums. To be honest with you, I think he even released an album this year. Now let's talk about the tracks on this album. The first track, Dunkelheit, which translates to darkness, starts off with the atmospheric adventure you are about to take alongside Varg. Now, I think the overall meaning of this song is when night falls, it separates us from society. During the nighttime, your mind is on its own. It brings us closer to our animal nature. Everyone finds meaning to their lives in the dark as well. It also could be a threat towards Christianity and its followers. Now, I know Varg, one thing about his personality is he wasn't very fucking fond of Christianity, and he wasn't very fond of, well, he's actually not fond of a lot of things, to be honest, and I think that's one thing that makes his personality quite interesting. But since it says that, he didn't make his Burzum music a lot about his personal beliefs, I honestly think that it's about the other thing rather than a threat towards Christianity. But it could be, if you read the lyrics, it could be about either or. The second track on the album, Jesus Todd, which translates to Jesus Death, continues the atmospheric nature of Burzum. And this album, it mentions this being that's so evil all the followers wither, so cold that all the water freezes, and when the being dies or its soul fades / withers away, a shadow falls over the forest, which could represent the whole world or maybe just the forest of Norway, since he was in Norway at the time of recording this album. I think this is a cool track. It does go along with the whole just atmosphere of it all, and I think it's a very fucking good track. The third track on the album, Beholding the Daughters of the Firmament. Now, this is probably one of the tracks I have found the most interesting on the album. Not only for the misanthropy and emotion you can feel coming from Varg in this one, but the lyrical content as well I have found to be the most interesting in this track. It seems like this one touches on the winter and depressive vibes it gives off and how it seems to be different every time. And this also follows the thoughts of the future in life, possibly wondering how his life was going to turn out at that time. Now, if you read the lyrics of this one, you can tell it has a bunch of fucking emotion and passion to go along with it. Which is honestly, what I like in a lot of metal bands. You can fucking hear the anger, passion, emotion, aggression in their voices and in the instrumentation of it. And you can really hear that on the third track of this album. It tells a story. And honestly, the poetry that Varg's writing in this is honestly unlike no other. It's better than any black metal lyrics I've ever fucking read. And fucking, it's just overall a fucking amazing track, and I love the fucking depressive atmosphere that this shit gives off. Now, next up, we got the track Decrepitude, number 1. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but hopefully I am. Which expresses once again Varg's amazing poetry and lyrics and the amazing ambient depressive vibe of this album. Once again, now, this song seems to be touching on an afterlife and what happens when you die. Almost, it seems like this album talks about heaven without fucking right out saying it. And like I said before, this is one thing I've always loved about Burzum, is how they present their lyrics. Because while I was reading through the lyrics of this album and other Burzum songs, I have to say, I've always loved how Varg is very discreet with his lyrics. That inspires me a lot, actually. How, if someone told you what he was writing about, you can kind of get a vision of it. But without knowing what it's about, it's very discreet. And I love how it's open. And it can be about fucking a multitude of things, for all we know. And that's one thing I found so good, is it's fucking basically poetry in lyrics form, and I've always loved that type of shit. And now next up, we have the 25-minute dark ambient depressive masterpiece, Circumambulation of the Transcendental Columns of Singularity. Now, this is a very thought-provoking track and presses more and more deep as it progresses on. This is my second favorite track on the album aside from Dunkelheit. Alright. This track is a masterpiece, to be honest with you. And it's very different from any DSBM at all. This track starts out very calmly, and then it slowly progresses up and gets more and more and more atmospheric over time. And actually, that's one thing that I love about this track, honestly. It progresses up, and it's done more then honestly, it has more atmosphere and emotion than honestly any DSBM album I've ever heard. It's so passionate and so aggressive that it just ends up being a fucking masterpiece. And that's what I love about this track and how it progresses moving forward. Again, this is my second favorite track on the album. It's fucking amazing. And lastly, we got the track Deprecated 2, which just continues the atmospheric vibe and ends up, and it basically ends us off with the album. And in a total, at the end of this album, we end up getting 32 minutes of this fucking incredible experimental atmospheric shit at the end of the record, which honestly I think couldn't have brung this record out better. To be honest, I fucking think it's amazing. If you haven't checked out Burzum or Varg's work, or Filosofem, I fucking really highly recommend you check it out. Best black metal album of all time, in my opinion. Good fucking shit here. So overall, Filosofem has become the most popular album of Burzum of all time. Even Varg himself, who is critical actually to these days of his own work, has a positive opinion on this album nowadays. Possibly it's the most impulsive Burzum album ever. And as a message, it means a lot for Varg. Its music was written in different periods of time, but it was recorded in a critical period for Burzum. In 1993, Varg called Filosofem an anti-black metal album. It became a manifest against the black metal scene and the people in it. especially of those days. In some sense, it was opposing previous Burzum works. On the other hand, it developed a sound Burzum presented the darkness from the other's perspective, to be honest with you, in a more atmospheric and hell, even more depressive vibe, in my opinion. Stylistically, the music of Filosofem differs from common black metal indeed. It's utterly slow, it's more depressive than aggressive, it's highly influenced by ambient, and the vocals are no longer black metal shrieks, but a kind of distorted hissing. The biggest black metalist thing out there is the quality of the sound. How that fucking raw and stripped back sound, I fucking love it. Um and honestly, it's a true beauty of ugliness and a perfect representation and example of rawness and just outstanding raw energy. Yeah, this is how black metal is supposed to sound like. Even though Varg labeled it as an anti-black metal record, this to me is what black metal is supposed to sound like. Raw, stripped back, pure fucking emotion and aggression. This is what it's supposed to fucking sound like, people. Varg did it like no other. And it, some take Filosofem as another seated depressive black metal, and why not? You know, I've even called this a DSBM album before in the past. The music of the album is sorrowful indeed, as well as the lyrics. Dunkelheit, however, sounds not exactly tragic, but as dark as it is possible with music. The track's title is translated as darkness. It all, like I said, it's also just Burzum, because Burzum's name is darkness, for fuck's sake, and it represents darkness for 100%. It's an ideal connection for music and lyrics. The music creates the pictures which are described in the lyrics, even without acknowledging what's written in the lyrics. Overall, it represents a crushing monotony. Both parts of the two-part tracks in the album are very depressive, and the second one I think is even more perfect because it doesn't even have any fucking vocals, and I think it's a fucking masterpiece. How it's mixed with black metal distorted guitars, ambience. There's really just, you can feel energy and influence all around on this album. And the 25-minute track, it's all great here. So, an anti-black metal album was quickly turned to a black metal classic. Why? Well, first of all, it was written in a classical Burzum era. But secondly, it expresses darkness in a perfect way. While darkness is one of the most important features of black metal anyway, in this case it's not necessary to argue on a genre, as it has already been mentioned. Filosofem has features of several genres and subgenres, even outside of metal. The hypnotic melodies of Filosofem do everything instead of any words and tags. Lastly, I give this album a 10 out of fucking 10. I would highly recommend you check out Burzum and Filosofem. If you haven't, I don't know what the fuck you're even doing here, to be completely honest with you. It's overall a fucking amazing record, and I would recommend you fucking check it out. Burzum, Filosofem, best black metal of all time in my fucking opinion. Lastly, if you would like to join me or Chaos's Discord server, both of those links will be down in the description below. Also, on another side note, fuck Discord. But other than that, this has been Luke. Don't forget to stay optimistic about all the events in your life, and I hope you guys also have a good holiday season if you celebrate that kind of stuff. Take care, guys, and don't forget to stay fucking metal. Cheers.